Day Private Business Number 3, Healthcare Safe Access Amendment Bill, second reading.
The Honourable Ms Franks.
Thank you, Mr President. I move that this bill now be read a second time.
Is that seconded? Yes. You proceed.
Bill seeks to legislate for safe access zones around abortion health care in this state. It is not the first time that this chamber, it's not even the second time that this chamber has debated this matter, but I hope it will be the final time to ensure that we provide that a person has the right to access legal reproductive services without fear, intimidation or harassment, that people in our state have the right to access these vital health services without having their privacy compromised, that it is also the time that finally this parliament ensures that the staff, the workers in these places in our state where abortions are performed, have the right to enter and leave their workplace safely every day without being obstructed, without being interfered with, hindered or harassed. By providing for these healthcare safe access zones around premises that perform abortions, this bill will ensure that those seeking that health care and the staff that provide that care can access those premises safely without experiencing anxiety, stress or fear, and the trauma that can occur when they encounter anti-abortion groups or individuals outside those premises. Some members of our community, of course, have very deeply held views about abortion and are opposed to the practice of abortion. That is their right. They are free to express those views. This bill does not prevent people from holding or expressing those views. However, expressing your deeply held views does not carry with it a free pass or a right to subject others to fear and intimidation. This bill will entitle women and those accompanying them to access these vital healthcare services in a safe and confidential manner without the threat of harassment. It will enable staff to access their workplace without being verbally abused, obstructed or threatened, without having their privacy compromised. This bill, of course, contends that it is not reasonable for anti-abortion groups or individuals to target women at the very time and in the very place where they seek to access an abortion health service, or to target the health service workers with behaviours that are, of course, prohibited in this bill. That will enable safe entry and egress to these health services. The impact of such actions on those who seek to use these health services is indeed something that must be viewed in the context of their own personal circumstances. Many attending these health services are already feeling quite distressed, anxious, fearful, perhaps about an unplanned pregnancy or procedure that they are about to undergo, and to be fearful that they also have to run the gauntlet of protest is further traumatic and further a burden that we can and we should ensure this parliament offers protection against at the most difficult time in some people's lives. To be confronted by anti-abortion individuals or protests by groups at this time is, of course, going to lead to further trauma on these vulnerable patients. It's also quite intimidating and demeaning for women to have to run the gauntlet simply to access a health service. Indeed, we know that the general aim of anti-abortion groups is to deter women from accessing these abortion services. The High Court, of course, has found that protections like that afforded in this bill of safe access zones, where protections for patients and health workers alike ensures that there is not the ability to harass and intimidate a person providing or accessing a legal health service, is something that has already been done in most jurisdictions of this country. South Australia yet again lags in terms of these types of law reform. And previously, when I've brought the substance and the similar content matter that the bill has before us in this particular debate, I've noted that it is only South Australia and Western Australia that does not have safe access zones around abortion health care in terms of the Australian standard. Well, I note that Western Australia, there the Labor government has now moved for safe access zones in that state, and I certainly hope we are not the last state to legislate to ensure that protection for these patients. The behaviour around these reproductive health services is conduct that can cause fear, anxiety and intimidation, and indeed that is why this bill seeks to prohibit certain behaviours, Mr President, and indeed defines those prohibited behaviours as A, to threaten, intimidate or harass another person, B, to obstruct another person approaching, entering or leaving protected premises, or C, to record by any means whatsoever images of a person approaching, entering or leaving protected premises, or D, to communicate by any means in relation to abortions in a manner that is able to be seen or heard by a person accessing, attempting to access or leaving protected premises that is reasonably likely to cause distress or anxiety. Indeed, that is actually quite a high bar to set, and it is a bar and it is a standard that will be addressed by law enforcement. Should a person or a worker in these services feel that those prohibited behaviours are being enacted within the safe access zone of 150 metres around an abortion health service, then the police will be able to use their discretion to stop those behaviours. In the first instance, they will ask the person to leave the 150-metre safe access zone. Should that person refuse to leave and continue with the prohibited behaviours, then they will be facing potential fines of up to $10,000 or possibly imprisonment for 12 months. That is a penalty that is in keeping with the penalties around the country in most other jurisdictions of this nation. We know in this place that we, this week, have seen a bill to ensure that abortion is removed from the criminal code. We know that at least twice a year, groups such as 40 Days for Life organise and target the Pregnancy Advisory Centre at Woodville, in particular, for what they call silent prayer vigils for 40 days around those services. And we know that because this parliament has failed to provide protection to patients, that yet again, in the coming months, patients will be required to run the gauntlet. And we now also know, possibly at a time where there is heightened feelings about abortion law reform in this state. I think we have actually failed those particular patients by waiting so long to act on these safe access zones. So I do intend, Mr President, to see this bill progressed as swiftly as possible within the processes of a respectful parliament. But I note that, one, we've had this debate before in this place. Similar bills have passed this council previously, that the Sowry report, some 550 plus pages of extensive work and consultations, is there to inform each and every member of this council with their deliberations. And I refer members of the council to recommendations 49 through 56 of the Sowry report, and indeed chapter 18 of the Sowry report, which deals specifically with ensuring that South Australia has safe access zones to protect patients and healthcare workers alike. And I would hope that members will be ready, willing and able to effect the swift passage of this legislation incoming sitting weeks. To that end, Mr President, I intend to take this to at least a second reading vote on the 11th of November. I would note that already there's been 2 tabled amendments circulated, and I note that the Honourable Dennis Hood has an amendment for a review of the legislation, and to me that seems somewhat uncontroversial. I also note that the Honourable Nicola Centofanti has an amendment that is similar to one that was debated in the other place about ensuring silent prayer is not seen as a prohibited behaviour. I would draw members' attention to the work particularly of the Castan Centre, who has actually specialised in observing how silent prayer is indeed used to threaten, intimidate or harass other people who are accessing reproductive health services in Australia. And note that this bill in and of itself does not actually prohibit silent prayer. What it does prohibit is behaviours, as I outlined, that are designed to threaten, intimidate or harass, that are surely behaviours I would not imagine anyone to be looking to perpetuate in any parliament of the nation. It is not a right to threaten, intimidate or harass. This bill does not prohibit silent prayer, but by ensuring that the bill affords the protections against prohibited behaviour, to include an exemption for silent prayer would actually, I believe, denigrate those who do hold a Christian faith or a faith that supports prayer, because I don't know of any religion that wants to threaten, intimidate or harass through the use of prayer. Now, by giving silent prayer a special dispensation from those prohibited behaviours, I think we open a very frightening Pandora's box, if you like, that allows religion and religious practice to be contorted into something quite ugly if we are saying that it's okay to use silent prayer to threaten, intimidate or harass. That is, to me, not what prayer is about. I am, I think I've put it on the record before, agnostic. I don't actually believe, I'm not an atheist, as some possibly assume. I'm also not a monotheist, and I'm certainly not averse to the right and ability and power of prayer, but I certainly will not stand by while people use words and supposed rights to pray to threaten, intimidate or harass, and I would hope that other members of this council will see the same. To that end, I also offer members the ability to talk to those who have specialised in the role of silent prayer around abortion health care and the way it has been weaponised, if you like. And the Castan Law Centre are ready, willing and able to provide either direct briefings, or should members be interested, we can hold an online parliamentary briefing to find out more. We did actually, myself and Nat Cook, the member for Hurdle Vale who co-sponsored this bill and introduced this bill in the other place, already offer such an opportunity to members of Parliament, but we are happy to run that again. And we look forward, hopefully, to the passage of this bill on the 11th of November.